Hello, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Thursday. And I wanted to change the name to Virtually Thursday, but it is actually literally Thursday. Virtual Thursday Dire Literary Series. And tonight, my very special guest is Donna Spruijt-Metz. And I really had a great time talking to Donna before this, but let's go and I'll do the proper intro here. And that's her webpage, which is donnaspruijt.com. Donna is a poet, a translator, a professor of psychology and preventive medicine at the University of Southern California, in Los Angeles. My first career. Both of ours, she was a professional flautist, and there's a link that you can get some more information on that. Her first full-length book came out on New Year's Day, general release from the beginning of the world. And she also had two wonderful chapbooks, Slippery Surfaces, and a book that she co-wrote with Flower Conroy. It's called And Haunt the World. So without anything else from me, let's turn it over to Donna.
Timothy, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you guys for being here in the middle of the California day, at least. I was asked to read for 7 minutes, so I'm a good girl. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read 3 poems. I'm going to set my timer, and if we have more time, I'll read one more, but 3 poems is nice. I'm going to read the first poem from the book. Here it is, which you can see. You see it backwards, right? And I'm going to read this first poem because in many ways it sort of ties all of the themes together. And believe me, this book went through so many different versions before it became itself. And, poems came, poems left. I divorced some of the poems, threw them out, new ones came, I married new poems, but this was always the first poem. And it's called I Need the Long March. When I was my grandmother's mother, I knew she would be beautiful in the time of war. So I set to knitting her a whole skein of swans in flawless V formation, pearl-colored to match her skin, steadfast guides for the long march. I sewed coins and jewelry into the hem of her dress, copal, charms, carnelian, and ash into her long sleeves. And when my fear for her life was bigger than my love, I released her to the steppes and flew. Above it all, above the war, grasslands, snowfields, past the small horses and the gray wolves. This book has a bunch of visual poems in them, poems that are illustrated. And the one I'm going to read you now is called To the Death. All of the illustrations in the book, or all the pictures, are either family pictures or documents that I dug up when going through my mother's stuff 17 years after she died. Another story. So this one's called To the Death. These are all prose poems. My husband and I had a fight today about pictures. I never like the ones of me, and that pisses him off. My negativity pisses him off. In any picture taken right now, or a few days ago, or last year, I always think I look old or tired. But tonight, I am poring over decades of snapshots, and I see that there are pictures I like now at this remove. The pictures I like are the ones where I am not just looking happy, but truly happy, at least as far as memory serves. And yet I come back to this one. My mother and I, no idea when it was taken. Before I moved to Holland, I'm guessing. So maybe I was 19. Who took this picture? We both seem surprised. I look like I might strangle her. Just move that hand up a tiny bit. No, this is not a happy family picture. Read the resentment in my face, the defensiveness in hers. Yet we cling to one another. We dare the onlooker to come between us as we battle each other. Oops, there. Last poem in my 3-poem set, and maybe I'll read one more. Maybe one. This one, there's a lot of poems that were built on the Psalms in this book. So I study Psalms with a group of women every Thursday night. And I've studied Psalms with the same group of women for more than a decade by now. You never know, you start something up and it just goes, it lives its own life. And some of the things that we do together become poems for me. We use a process called Lectio Divina, which we have stolen from the Carmelites. And everybody's shaking their head. Yes, some of you know where that is, and I'm happy to talk about it later. I'll talk about it later. And the thing that you also need to know in the Psalms poems are that when I say you, I'm talking about the God or the goddess or the ineffable or awareness. So the holy. So that is the you. And the last thing you need to know about this psalm is that it's my shrink's favorite. Okay. Kitchen sink after Psalm 96. In the kitchen, singing at the top of my lungs while the water's running, music turned up, dogs barking. I'm slicing vegetables, squeezing lemons. I'm here in the middle of all your noisy bounty. You bless me with this onslaught, and now I'm trying to figure out how to return the favor, how to bend to the sacred business of witnessing the day. In every nation, drought and hunger, flood and fire, loss, nations devouring other nations. Yet the egret, yet the bone. Sorry. Should I start it again? Are we good? Yeah, I'm just going to keep going. So in every nation, drought and hunger, flood and fire, loss, nations devouring other nations. Yet the egret, standing one-legged in the marshes, yet the sizzling of the vegetables in this pan. Yet these cities of tents and boxes, what can I do but turn and face your awesome gates and witness and pour it out to you with heart through my open mouth, singing at the top of my lungs. I'm so busy with my small offices and anxious needs, while you make and do while I'm not looking. Consider the wonders of your sanctuary, for instance, the heights of it, its windows and doors, its openings and closings, how I enter it or it enters me and then vanishes. And then it is for me to sing you back to splendor, not that I have that kind of power. No, it's you in your kindness have turned up the volume. And as I turn your many names over and over, polish them to smooth stones, let me leave all these silly trinkets here with you.
Wow, Donna, thank you so much. That was a beautiful poem.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruptions.
I just, it's what you get when you have a pet duck hanging around the house.
And a pet phone that never rings.
Of course. So let's talk a little bit about this book, The General Release from the Beginning of the World. This was your first full length, and I'm kind of surprised by that because you have a nice reputation in the poetry world. So tell me what it was like to have the first full-length book come out after putting out a couple of chapbooks. Was it what you were expecting?
This is my rabbit in the headlights look. What I was expecting. Jeez. I was terrified, to be honest. That's just when I was submitting it, I was, on the phone with my friend Nan on a semi-daily basis crying because it got rejected. It's just like, it didn't take that long for it to get picked up. But to me, it was eternity. That was all I wanted. I wanted that book out. And then as soon as it was going to happen, I was terrified. It's so intimate. I mean, and it is a baby book. It's my first full length. So it's going to have all the shit in it. And it does have that. But
for aspiring writers, how many times was it rejected before it got accepted?
Maybe 20.
And that's what you got to do. That's great. Well, congratulations. It was born on New Year's Day. How apropos.
It took many different versions of the book, as I said before. And as she now stands, the first time I sent it out, as she now stands, it got taken. So she just needed to have the poems that shouldn't have any of the visual poems. Because those were
you're a professor of psychology at the University of Southern California. And have you ever thought about being a professor of poetry, either there or elsewhere? Or might you be?
No, I have never thought of that. In fact, in 10 days, I will no longer be a professor of anything. I just want to write. I'm
enjoy that retirement.
Academia. I've academied for long enough. I know it. Been there, done that.
Now, while you were teaching psychology, excuse me, and you were a poet, was that like wearing two hats, or did they seep into each other and become the same big hat?
No, not for me. I have been singularly unsuccessful in writing poems about science. I have maybe two. Because I'm not really a psychology professor. I'm a psychology and preventive medicine and health. So behavioral health. No, it was just a larger and larger conflict. The 24-hour day is a cluster. It's a lot.
You started your career as a professional flautist, and then you spent 22 years in the Netherlands. So does those experiences seep into your poems and your writing more than your religious beliefs? Because there's a lot of themed poetry based on that too.
Nothing seeps into my poetry more than religion. but I think, and it's not beliefs, it's arguing with God. So the beliefs change all the time. It's more a discussion on what's holy and how do I get holy, gimme. And what can I give you in return? And can we have a bargain of some sort? But I don't understand. It's more that than beliefs, because those shift. But the time in Holland certainly seeped in, because that's when I sort of started to write again. I mean, I'd given up for a long time. And I translate Dutch poetry and music. Music is always a part of my practice. I wrote a whole cycle of poems on the St. John's Passion just for practice. There's one in the book.
So with the translations from the poets from Holland and the Netherlands. Did you promote and translate poets that are current and active poets, or like the great poets of that country that might no longer be with us?
Both.
Hate to beat around the bush.
Both. So I'm a huge fan of Hanslo Dyson. And I translated almost an entire book, but his family wouldn't let me publish it. They're hard to work with. He was his father was wrong in the war. Hans was gay, and it was the family's just has been difficult. So there's another poet now whose name I forget, who's done some translating for them, and I'm going to reach out to her and see what that's about. So that's exciting. And then Wayne Miller, who I took a workshop with, gave me a living poet, gifted me a living poet that I didn't know, who he really liked and hated the translations. And we've been working together ever since for years. And I just finished a book of translations of his work. And a couple of those poems have been in Copper Nickel, and a couple in the journal, I think, Literacy. So, yes.
Now, when you were working with a difficult family, did you have to get the rights to those poems? And can anyone translate a poem, or do you need to get the rights?
To get the rights. They're not in public domain. So, and you know, I'm going to talk to this woman whose name I can't remember. I'm sorry, and see how she managed, because this was a long time ago, and I had a lot on my plate, and a very young child, and we were immigrating. It was like, okay, I give up. So it's not, you know, they weren't making it easy. So I should probably try again, because it's a whole book.
Do you find that people will just give you the rights, or it's something that you have to pay for?
I think you forgot one of three possible answers to that question.
Okay.
They don't give you the rights. They give you the rights, or you have to pay for the rights. I personally have never had to pay, but there are ways around it. For instance, if you use there's a percentage. If you want a line from a poem, there's a percentage of the poem, and if you go over that percentage, I forget what it is. It's like 11%, I think. Elizabeth, you might know. And I wanted to use an epigraph from Carl Phillips, and it was kind of long. And my publisher said, we're going to have to pay for the rights to that. So if you could just shorten it. And actually, it was much better the way that they wanted it. So
on your website, there's a lot of publications. And earlier you discussed adding poems, removing poems. Do the poems on your website appear to the book? And then let's talk a little bit about the adding, removing process. So the ones that are on your website, do they appear in your new book?
Not all of them. Some of them are new, and some of them I divorced. They just didn't fit, or I decided I had no faith in them anymore. But there they are.
Wasn't a messy divorce, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was clean. So
When you putting them in and pulling them out, did that process happen before the acceptance? In other words, did you work with the editor at your publisher to be, can this go in? What do you think? Or did you just do it? Here's the manuscript. This is what I want. There's
a third possible answer to that question.
I'm about at 66.7% right now.
So I sent them the book, which had been completely renovated with those, particularly with those picture poems, but anything that, it's just like when you buy a new book, another book has to go. So it was, things were coming out and things were going in, and then I sent it out, and then I went to McDowell with my writing partner, Flower, just as like, okay, I'm out of here. When I come back, I'll see what happened. And right before I left for McDowell, I just sent out the new version, but I had a couple more of those poems, so I put them in. When I got back, I got the call. They took the book. I said, I have a couple more picture poems. I did a couple trades in the way that I'd like to have it now. And John said, the editor of the series said, we love the work, we'll take it, however you want it. And that was that. There was a lot more back and forth about layout.
Did you win? Or get what you wanted?
I did. But they were really nice about it. Just, they had some ideas, and
That's
some of them,
good.
some of them was like, no. They were
Now,
great.
you asked to share the screen, and I didn't want to interrupt you because the screen sharing didn't come through. I didn't want to stop you. So no, it did not. So do you want to share the content now and talk about how related to the poems that you've read? And maybe there it is.
This was the one that I shared.
Yes. You shared that with me, and that's you on the right.
That's so weird that you guys couldn't see it. I was worried that you might not be able to. You should have stopped me. There it is. So that's me. Just if I move up my hand, I could strangle her. See the look of defensiveness in her eyes and the resentment. No, defensiveness in my eyes and the resentment in her, and the other way around. I forget. I can look it up. I have the book. So this, I was about 19, I think.
Her hand looks like she's trying to stop you from strangling her.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I hate people that read ekphrastic poems when you can't see the damn picture.
And the poem was beautiful. I mean, I always find that for me, the benchmark of an ekphrastic poem is, can it be read without the picture? And it certainly could in your case.
Thank you.
So
I take it down now?
Sure. Bye. So the other thing too is, you said you were going to get back before you read the Psalm poem. You're going to get back to something. It slipped my mind. What were we going to talk about? The stolen poems from stolen Psalms. Stolen
Lectio
poems.
Divina. We're going to talk about Lectio Divina.
Yes.
Okay. It's this group of women and I, all Jewish, by the way. One of them teaches it or taught at LMU, which is a Christian university, and was working with a pastor there, just doing work together. And he gave her this Lectio Divina. And the way that we've adapted it. But basically, you read through a text or a psalm, and then you go line by line, and you write your own line. So we would go around the room doing that, and then reading our lines out loud. And then at the end, we would read the whole thing. So that was the germ for the psalm poems here.
Okay. I'm going to finish up with the questions about your collaboration with Flower Conroy. Did you write those poems while you were at MacDowell together? Did you plan the book while you were there together? Or is there a third response that I didn't name?
There's a third response. We put that book together before we went. And when we were at MacDowell, and that was all done remotely. And then when we were at MacDowell, when we were in the same room, in the same studio, we had a whole different process and put together the rest of the book, basically. Worked like maniacs. And it was very fun. Yeah.
Are the styles of your work similar? And if they are, does that work best?
No, the styles of our work, what Flower gives me the crazy that I don't always have. And I give her the narrative that she doesn't always have. And so we sort of complement each other. The poems are quite wacky. They're wonderful. And all the titles in the book and all the titles in the chap are last lines from ED, from Dickinson, from Emily Dickinson.
And did you work together on singular poems, or did you produce your own poems separately to fill the book, or both?
Both.
I'm learning.
It started because we've known each other for years, and we started. There's something called the Daily Grind that you can join, and then you write every day, and you have to send it to whoever's in your group every day, and you can sign up by month. I am now part of the administrator team of the grind. And you have to be invited in. And so anyway, Flower invited me in 2019. And you can request people if you want to be in their group. And so we would be in each other's groups, and we knew one another. We'd known one another since 2013. And sometimes we would back channel one another. I really love this poem. And of course, Flower is a real tinkerer, God bless her. And she would write back and say, I love this poem, but I would maybe do this. And it was like, oh yeah, I want to do that. And then I got brave and I'd say to her, I love this poem, but maybe I do this thing. And then, so then we just started really messing with one another's work. And then we couldn't recognize it anymore. At some point, we didn't know whose was whose, what was what. We really didn't.
That's great. I've heard of the Daily Grind from some other folks.
Ross White and Matthew Oldsman started it up.
And when you're working with someone, did you ever have a discussion about like, I hate to, I'm sure they all got resolved, they're in the book, but were there some discussions more intense than others in terms of content or work, what to include, what to do with various poems, etc.?
In the book with Flower?
Yes. Yes.
The book, no, it was pretty harmonious. The only thing that happened, and I have to laugh, this is my bad, is we've submitted it now a couple of times, and then it came back and Flower said, we should change this poem and this poem around. And I was going, no, don't change anything. I don't like change. Change is freaky. And she was, of course, right. But I had this moment of, it's a book, don't touch it. And I was like that with my own book for 10 minutes. And did that help? No. But it just took me a hot minute to kind of let go. So if you ever work with me, you guys, that happens. And then I do let go.
I want to thank you, Donna Spruijt-Metz, for being here. And we talked about some of your books, and there they are. There's the brand new one, and it's no longer pre-order, it's order. So you can click and get it right away. And this is the book that we just talked about with Flower Conroy, and that is from Ghost City Press. And the first one, Slippery Surfaces, from the very well-known Finishing Line Press. So this is all found on, you look up here, I'm circling with my pointer, Donna S. Metz, M-E-T-S, Donna S. Metz.
No, M-A-T-Z, Metz, Z, M-E-T-Z.
M-E-T-Z, what did I say? M-E-T-Z. So I would put it in the chat, but some of you are not going to be watching this. I'll put it in the chat on the YouTube. But Donna, thank you so much for being with us and reading your lovely work and chatting with me.
Thank you.
And so the folks that are watching it over on the virtual website where it's live streaming, you are welcome to use the Zoom link and come in for the open mic. If you put questions on that site, I am so sorry, but I'm not there, I'm here. So what I'm going to do is say goodnight to you, and but feel free to join us on the Zoom link.